Today we are going to work on a phonics lesson plan. And to start off our lesson plan, we're going to do a review of a list of words that we learned last week. And I will ask questions such as, do any of those words rhyme? And do any of those words we went over have consonant blends? For our overview, we are going to go over the purpose or importance of today's lesson, which is to help give students a strong foundation that they need to become lifelong readers and spellers. Our continuity for the past is going to be that last week we learned about rhyming words and the ones that have consonant blends. Today we are going to work on recognizing our base words and learn a little bit about suffixes or inflections. For tomorrow, we are going to learn what happens to the meaning of the word when there is an inflection or a suffix added to the end of a base word. And our objective for today is to recognize base words and their inflectional forms, or suffixes. For our motivation or our motivational activity, we're going to play the Add Me Word game. And what that game is, is where I'm going to write, which I have already done here, the suffixes to the words on the board. And then I'm going to you can either give the students a word or they can give you a word. And what we'll do is pick one of the suffixes to see if it makes a new word. For example, we are going to use the word jump, which when we add S to it makes jumps. We can also add ED, which would make jumped. And then we can also add ING, which would make jumping. And that's just an example of how the activity will work. So you'll do that with how many of your words are on your list, and you can use spelling words or the list of words from last week that we went over that was rhyming. And you'll just do that several times just so that the students can get a hang of the activity and to know a little bit more about their suffixes. For today's procedures or activities, our objective is going to be that the learner will be able to recognize base words in and out of their inflectional forms with about an 85% accuracy. Then for our first activity, we're going to play Break Apart. And what the students will do is you can either use the cards from the activity that came with it, or you can make up your own cards with words from a spelling lesson or a math lesson, and you can make your own cards. And what you would do is go ahead and cut them out and place them face down on a flat surface in front of the classroom. And then have a student come up to the front of the classroom and pick up a card from the stack. And that student would read that card to the class. For example, if they came up to the front of the class and they picked the word returning from the top of the pile, what you would do is to have them read that word out loud to the class. And the class, everyone in the class, will have their own little whiteboard. They will write the word on their whiteboard. And then they're going to see if they can break it apart to separate the suffix and the base word, which in this case, from our motivational activity, we learned that ING is a suffix. So if we take ING off of it, we have return, and that gives them their base word. And once they write this down and they break their word apart, what they'll do is they'll take the activity sheet that came with the activity this one right here, and they will write the beginning word, the word that the student called out, right here in this column. Then if the word were to have a prefix or adding a piece of a word like ing that got added to the end of the word, to the beginning of the word, they would put in this column. And then in this column, they would write their base word. In this case, for our example, they would write return. And then in the last column, they would write ing, which is our suffix for the activity. And you'll do that until and then you'll go through that until they fill up their page, their worksheet page, with all their different words that they have learned and gone over. For our second activity, we're going to play the inflection toss. And you can use the boxes like the activity suggests, or you can, I thought about maybe enlarging the mats and making it 2 big mats, because the activity comes with a worksheet that says base words and one that says inflections. And you can either use the boxes or you can make bigger copies and laminate them. And what the students would do, a student would come up and they would toss a beanbag and get it to land on one of these squares. And they would do the same thing with the second beanbag for the inflection words. And so, for example, if they had landed a beanbag on the word walk, and they had landed another beanbag on the inflection ing, they would take and they would say those two together to see if they made a new word. Or they could go ahead and just write them on their piece of paper. So they would write walk, and then they would put the inflection that they landed the second beanbag on onto the end of their word. Now, if the word makes a new word, such as walking, then they would leave it as is on their paper. Now, for an example of something that they would cross out or erase off their paper, if they took and they landed on look for their base word, and they landed on ES, they could write that down on their board, on their piece of paper, and we would know that that is not a new word. That is a nonsense word. So we would have them cross it out or erase it on their piece of paper. And we want them to continue this activity until they get 10 words or new words written on their paper. Right now I'm going to stop the video, and I'm going to make up the second part or the ending to the lesson plan in another video, because my camera only allows me to do 10 minutes at a time. So if you'll give me a moment, you'll see the second part of the video soon. Thanks.